You were so close. Everything was lined up. The opportunity was right there in front of you. And then, without any warning, you pulled the plug on yourself. You stopped calling back. You stopped showing up. You started picking fights with people who were trying to help you. You found 100 reasons why it probably wouldn't have worked out anyway. And now you're sitting here wondering why you keep doing this. But psychology explains this differently than you think. What you call laziness or fear or bad luck is actually something your brain is doing on purpose. And once you understand why, nothing about yourself will ever look the same again. This is called self-sabotage, and it is one of the most misunderstood patterns in all of human psychology. Most people assume self-sabotage is about weakness. They think it means you don't want it badly enough. They tell themselves they just need more discipline, more motivation, more willpower. But that explanation is completely wrong, and it's wrong in a way that makes the problem worse every time you believe it. Self-sabotage is not the absence of ambition. It is ambition at war with something deeper, something older, something that lives in a part of your brain that does not speak in words, only in feelings. And that feeling has one job: keep you safe, even when safe means small, even when safe means stuck. Psychologist Roy Baumeister at Florida State University spent decades studying self-defeating behavior, and he found something that should disturb you. People do not sabotage themselves because they want to fail. They sabotage themselves because success feels more dangerous than failure. Read that again. Success feels more dangerous than failure. Not consciously, not in the part of your brain that makes plans, sets goals, and watches motivational videos at midnight, but in the older, quieter part, the part that has been keeping score since you were a child. Here is what that part of your brain has learned. Every time something good happened in your life, something painful followed. Maybe you got excited about something and it fell apart. Maybe you trusted someone and they let you down at the worst possible moment. Maybe you succeeded once and the pressure that came after felt unbearable. Maybe you watched someone you loved get destroyed by their own success. Your brain cataloged every single one of those moments, and it built a rule, a silent, invisible rule. The higher you climb, the further you fall, and falling hurts. So stay low. This is what psychologists call the upper limit problem. Hendricks, a therapist and researcher who has worked with high performers for over 30 years, describes it as an internal thermostat, a thermostat for how much success, love, and happiness you are allowed to feel before your unconscious mind pulls you back down to where it thinks you belong. You have a set point, and every time you approach it, your nervous system gets uncomfortable, and an uncomfortable nervous system does not sit quietly. It acts out, it picks a fight, it gets sick, it forgets important things. It suddenly finds every reason why right now and is not the right time. Think about the last time you were on the edge of something real, a relationship that was going well, a project that was actually gaining traction, a habit you had maintained for weeks. And then something happened, something small, something that in any other context you would have handled easily. But at that moment, right at that moment, when things were working, it broke you. You told yourself it was a coincidence, but psychology says otherwise. Researcher Harriet Breaker, a clinical psychologist who specialized in self-defeating patterns, identified 6 core ways self-sabotage shows up in people's lives. Procrastination. That only appears when the stakes are real. Sudden self-doubt that arrives the moment other people start believing in you. Picking fights with partners or collaborators right before a breakthrough. Getting sick or injured at critical moments with suspicious frequency. Forgetting important details that you would never forget in a low-stakes situation. And finding distractions that feel urgent only when the real work is about to pay off. Any of those sound familiar? All 6 of them have the same root. Your brain is hitting the brakes because it thinks the road ahead is dangerous. But why does it think that? Where does this ceiling come from? And why does it feel so personal, so specifically calibrated to your exact life? The answer lives in your childhood, not as an excuse, as an explanation. When you were very young, you formed beliefs about what you deserved, about how much happiness was safe to feel, about what kind of person you were allowed to become. Those beliefs were not chosen. They were absorbed from the adults around you, from the environment you grew up in, from the moments when your excitement was met with criticism instead of encouragement, from the times when you were told not to get too big for your boots, from watching what happened to people who tried and failed publicly. You built a map of the world, and that map had a ceiling drawn right across it. Here's the brutal part. That ceiling follows you, not because you are broken, but because your brain is doing exactly what it was designed to do. It is protecting the version of you that learned to survive in that early environment. It has not been told that the environment changed. It has not been updated. It is still running on old software in a completely different world. This is why external motivation almost never fixes self-sabotage. You can listen to every podcast, read every book, hire every coach, but if the ceiling is still there, you will hit it every single time. The work is not about trying harder. The work is about updating the map. So what does that actually look like? Psychologist Nathaniel Branden, who spent his career studying self-esteem, argued that the single is to make the unconscious pattern conscious, not to fight it, not to shame it, but to see it, to name it out loud, to say, I am about to sabotage this, and I know exactly what it feels like right before I do it, because self-sabotage has a signature. It has a specific feeling that comes right before the behavior. A sudden heaviness, a strange restlessness, a voice that starts listing all the reasons why it will not work, a pull toward an old comfortable distraction. That feeling is the early warning system, and once you learn to recognize it, you have a window, a small window, but a real one, between the trigger and the behavior. And in that window, you can make a different choice. This is not easy. It is never easy because the feeling is real even when the danger is not. Your nervous system cannot tell the difference between the risk of embarrassment and the risk of being eaten by a predator. It responds to both with the same chemical cocktail of anxiety and retreat. So when you feel it, your body is genuinely convinced something is wrong, even when everything is actually going right, and that is the cruelest part of self-sabotage. It is most powerful exactly when you're closest to what you actually want. It does not show up when nothing is at stake. It shows up when everything is, when the relationship is real, when the opportunity is genuine, when the work is finally good enough. That is when the ceiling comes down hardest, because that is when your brain thinks the fall would hurt the most. But here is what your brain never calculated. The fall from where you are now, from staying small and staying safe, that fall is already happening, just slowly, just quietly, in the form of a life that never quite becomes what you knew it could be. You were so close. You have always been so close. And the reason you keep stopping right there, right at the edge of everything, you are working toward is not because you are weak. It is because some part of you learned a long time ago that getting what you want is the most dangerous thing of all. Understanding that is not the end of the work, but it is the only place the work can actually begin. Tonight, when you are about to do the thing that pulls you back, when you feel that familiar heaviness settling in right before the moment that matters most, you will recognize it now. And recognition is not nothing. Recognition is the first crack in a pattern that may have controlled you for years. Recognition is the moment. The unconscious becomes conscious. The moment you stop being dragged by the pattern and start seeing it for what it is. Because the truth is, the obstacle was never a lack of potential. It was never a lack of intelligence. It was never a lack of ambition. The obstacle was a protective mechanism that stayed long after the danger was gone. And now, for the first time, you can see it. The next time you feel the urge to quit, to delay, to distract yourself, to pull away from something that matters, pause just for a moment and ask yourself one question. Am I protecting myself, or am I protecting an old fear? Because that answer might change everything. And sometimes the difference between the life you have and the life you want is one moment of awareness at exactly the right time. Recognition is not the end, but it is the beginning. And every real change begins there.